Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Xbox On. It's Sam here, and look, like anyone who's got their Xbox Series S or X pre-order all lined up, we at Xbox On have spent a lot of time recently thinking about the games we're going to play first on our new console. You know, those games to put the hardware through its paces and get those next-gen like ooh moments right from day one. There's a great lineup of over 30 optimized launch titles, and you can check out our video running down every single one of those at the top of the screen now. But one of the things that's incredibly exciting about Xbox Series S and X is the commitment to backwards compatibility. We're talking 4 generations of games, all running on next-gen hardware. With the exception of a few that require Kinects, you can literally play every Xbox One game ever released on Xbox Series S and X, plus a list of almost 600 titles from the 360 and the original Xbox on launch day. And they all look and play better than ever before. So we've tried out some of our favourite games of years past and picked a few out that really benefit from all that next-gen power. In this video, we're specifically going to be looking at the Xbox Series X, as that's where you'll see the biggest gains. All the footage in this video has been captured on an Xbox Series X, and it really shows what 12 teraflops of GPU compute power and 4 times improvement on CPU performance can do for older games, even ones that aren't specifically marked as optimized cross-gen titles.
A perfect example of all this is Rainbow Six Siege. Ubisoft's competitive shooter is currently in its 5th year and going incredibly strong, with its first World Cup on the way and the game constantly growing through Season Pass updates, including Sam Splinter Cell Fisher joining its ranks of operators. Oh, and it's just launched on Xbox Game Pass for console. That's pretty nice, isn't it? So yep, the game's holding up nicely on Xbox One, but fire it up on a Series X and you'll not only be treated to the game running in 4K, but at 120 frames per second as well. 120 frames per second, that is double the frame rate of this game running on an Xbox One X. And you don't even need any fancy tech tests to see this for yourself. The game actually comes with its own built-in frame rate counter, which is basically the devs showing off, but for very good reason. If you really want to get competitive with Siege, then the Xbox Series X is by far the smoothest way to play.
Another game where frame rate really matters now, with Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. This hard-as-nail action game features some of the finest combat we've ever experienced. But as you'd expect from the studio that made Dark Souls, it also requires some serious precision to survive. And now thanks to the game's unlocked frame rate, you can expect a pretty consistent 60 FPS. Again, double the performance on Xbox One X. Along with the reduced input lag of the next-gen controller, it makes combat more responsive than ever before. So next time you miss that parry and get sliced in two, I'm afraid you've only got your own reactions to blame. Oh, and that's not the only cool thing about Sekiro on Xbox Series X. There's also Auto HDR, which we'll be talking about a little bit more in this video as we go on. But it means more realistic lighting to make sure Sekiro's already gorgeous landscapes really pop. Throw in the free Game of the Year update that arrived last month with 2 brand new modes and extra outfits to unlock, and you've got plenty of reason to revisit Sekiro, even if you've battled all the way through to the end. And if you did, congrats by the way, that's very hard. Anyway, Charlie, what other games you got?
In case you missed it, Fallout 4 developer just joined the Xbox Game Studios family, and the cherry on top of that already outstanding news is that the game is confirmed for a full suite of back-compat upgrades for next gen. This is another game that's doubling its Xbox One frame rate to run a solid 60 frames per second on an Xbox One S and X. It's also getting the full Auto HDR treatment, and of course it will benefit from those SSD boosted load times. Between the move to solid-state storage and the new Xbox Velocity architecture powering both consoles, games load up much quicker, something that especially benefits games with big open worlds like Fallout 4's post-apocalyptic version of New England.
Another very cool thing about the Xbox Series X back-compat feature is that if you look at recent games which recently pushed the Xbox One hardware to its limits, they're now able to go beyond the original visions developers had for them and set a brand new, ludicrously high standard. Take for example Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2019 one. Right. This first-person blockbuster looked beautiful, obviously running in 4K on the Xbox One X and targeting 60 FPS. But with such a graphical spectacle on show, the frame rates were unlocked to accommodate. With the power of the Xbox Series X though, you can play at a perfectly smooth 4K 60. So whatever the game throws at you, the result is warfare that's not just modern, it's positively futuristic.
If we rewind to the 360 days, an interesting game to look at is GTA 4. This was Rockstar really pushing the hardware of the time with a cityscape we'd only ever seen looking that realistic in real life. But if you fancy revisiting Liberty City, there's no better time to do it than on an Xbox Series X. The game originally ran at around 30 frames per second on the Xbox 360. That got bumped closer to the 50 frames per second mark with the Xbox One X back compat update back in 2017. But now you can finally play it locked at 60 frames per second. Plus, GTA 4 is another game which benefits from Auto HDR, bringing new life to the streets of the 4 boroughs. So if it's been a while since you've driven over the Broker Bridge or tried to scale the Statue of Happiness, there's never been a better time.
But if you really want to showcase for what Auto HDR can bring to an Xbox 360 game, the one to watch is Geometry Wars 2. This arcade-style twin-stick shooter is visually simple, so performance isn't really an issue, but it's the boldest and brightest example of Auto HDR in action. As the name suggests, Auto HDR automatically adds support for high dynamic range, or HDR, imaging to games that originally only featured SDR. This means you'll be able to see a wider spectrum of colour and more contrast between light and dark tones, for a much more realistic representation of how we see the world, which, as we all know, looks exactly like Geometry Wars 2. So yeah, in this case, Auto HDR basically means, well, some of the most eye-popping visual fireworks you'll ever see. It helps all those colourful particle effects practically jump off of the screen, and honestly, you might want to put your sunglasses on to play this one.
Okay, before we go back to the future, let's dive even further into Xbox history with Panzer Dragoon Orta. This game dropped on the original Xbox back in 2003 and was considered one of the best looking games of its generation. Of course, that was long before HDR was even a twinkle in the eye of game developers, so Auto HDR has stepped in to bring its fantasy world to life. Throw in the Xbox One X enhancements, which brought the game into razor-sharp 4K, and you've got a game that doesn't look its age at all.
Right now, it's back to the current gen for some more Xbox One games that look even better on Xbox Series S and X. If you really want to dig into the back compat improvements, something that's worth checking out is the Xbox One X enhanced games that offer various modes to let players choose how they want to make the most out of the tech upgrade, and something you can push even further with the next gen hardware. So let's take 2016 Hitman for example. On the Xbox One X, you were offered 2 modes to choose from. High quality, which prioritized resolution, or high frame rate, which prioritized, well, you can probably guess. And now on Xbox Series X, you can have the best of both worlds. Choose high quality, turn off the 30 FPS cap, and it will run in native 4K at a frame rate much closer to 60 FPS. Given the huge and detailed maps that Hitman lets you explore, that is pretty stunning. It's a perfect way to see this beautifully realised world and off a few people while you're globetrotting, of course.
It's a similar story with the Xbox One X's Final Fantasy 15. Whether you choose the game's light mode, which sets the resolution to 1080p and unlocks the frame rate, or opt for high mode, which targets 2160p but with the occasional dip to maintain 30 frames per second. Either way, you're going to see better and more reliable results on the Xbox Series X. This is another game which benefits hugely from that SSD and velocity architecture combo. You can expect to see load times between levels that may have previously taken over a minute reduced to a matter of seconds. Oh, and you want a cheeky little bonus? Final Fantasy 15 is also an Xbox Game Pass title, so as long as you're a subscriber, you can jump straight in without having to purchase the standalone game.
In fact, there are a whole ton of back compat bangers to explore on Xbox Game Pass once your console arrives. So let's close out this video with a couple more, like Monster Hunter World, the Capcom smash hit featuring monsters, hunting, and worlds. When you finally catch up with that Raytheon or Brachiodosh you need the pelt of, and the combat kicks off, every single frame counts. So you'll be pleased to hear whichever of the multiple performance modes you opt for, you'll see a bump in frame rate on Xbox Series X. Say you pick the highest resolution mode, not only will you get a wonderfully crisp look at the new world and its monstrous inhabitants, you can expect to see the FPS almost double over the Xbox One X standard.
And finally, how could we not talk about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice? The next game in this saga, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 to be precise, was unveiled alongside the Xbox Series X last December. And if you can't wait to get your hands on that, well, playing the first installment on next gen is a not at all terrifying warm-up job if you're up for it. This is a game that already ran beautifully on Xbox One X, with HDR bringing to life the murk of the underworld and the fiery light of those sigils, all at a solid 60 frames per second, depending on which mode you chose. That might leave you wondering if there's any actual room for improvement on Xbox Series X, and the answer doesn't come down to resolution or any of the other things we've been talking about, but simple image clarity instead. We're not exactly sure what wizardry the Xbox compatibility team has pulled off here, but if you look close enough, you'll see the results absolutely speak for themselves. It might not be the sequel we're waiting for just yet, but Senua's Sacrifice still feels thoroughly next-gen on Xbox Series X.
So there we have it, 11 of the back compat games we've been most impressed with on Xbox Series X. But of course, with a library of literally thousands to dig into from launch, there are going to be many, many more examples out there to take older games to the next level. If you're on cover a hidden gem after launch day, let us know down in the comments. But in the meantime, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for all the latest updates on the next gen. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.